Before King James had pretty powerful words on the shooting of Jacob Blake.
If you're sitting here telling me that there was no way to subdue that gentleman or detain him or to just before the firing of guns, then you're sitting here and you lying to not only me, you lying to every African American, every black person in the community, because we see it over and over and over. There was multiple, if you watch the video, there was multiple moments where if they wanted to, they could have tackled him, they could have grabbed him. You know, they could have done that. And why does it always have to get to a point where we see the guns firing and his family is there, the kids are there, it's in broad daylight, and who knows? I mean, if that video is not being taken by that person across the street, do we even know if we even see that video? There's like talks about that on. That's a possibility. It's just, quite frankly, it's just in our community. And us, I know people get tired of hearing me say it, but we are scared as black people in America. Black men, black women, black kids, we are terrified because you don't know. You have no idea. You have no idea how that cop that day left the house. You don't know if he woke up on the good side of the bed. You don't know if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You don't know if he had an argument at home with a significant other. You know if one of his kids said something crazy to him and he left the house steaming. Or maybe he just left the house saying that today is going to be the end for one of these black people. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It hurts. It hurts. And it's this through the grace of God that he's still living. Like 7 shots, close range, and he's still alive. That's through the grace of God right there. And my prayers goes out to that family and that community. But I got nothing nice to say about those cops at all. As a community, we really want change. And it doesn't not only just end in November, but it starts there. It starts there, and but we got to continue to still keep our foot on the pedal. Then, even if we get what we want, we still need more. What are we getting? Because right now of what's going on it's just not okay. And but I hope I can continue to uplift my community, uplift communities all over America, uplift the black community. Like I said, that's part of the reason why I started More Than a Vote, to, just to get people to understand how important our voices are. And the luxury of, partnering with the NAACP today, trying to get younger kids in there to help with the polls and things of that nature because of COVID, and the older generation are at risk, and it's just so much that we have to do. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow, but being organized and having a plan and keeping our feet on the gas pedal is something that we got to do. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but my emotions is all over the place as well.
LeBron James has been using his platform to bring awareness and fight for change. And Big Game, you brought it up earlier, those who came before him, Kareem, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, all these people. He has a voice and a reach that many minutes a little later on. This was supposed to be our scheduled pregame show filled with excitement for the Lakers to close out their first playoff series win since 2012. But as we have seen all through 2020, we are in unprecedented times. And tonight, there will be no NBA games. The players have boycotted in response to the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin on Sunday. James and Rob, what was your reaction when you heard the Bucks and the Orlando Magic were not taking the floor? Rob?
For me, I look back at when James and I played, and I'm like, we had a voice, but we was really too scared to use it. Well, I can't speak for James. I'm going to speak for someone because it was such a, kind of a boys club. And now everything is opened up, and these young men have the ability to step up and say something. And when Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm so happy, I am so happy that Milwaukee was the first team to play. Because I guarantee you, if it was someone other than Milwaukee, they'd have played, and then Milwaukee probably came on and said, oh, but it started a snowball effect. I saw where the baseball team in Milwaukee, they're not going to play that game, the Brewers. And so for them to exercise their voice and step up and say, you know what? The only thing that seems to get people's eyes is hitting them in the pocket. And for them to say, we're not going to play this game, and for the other NBA brothers to say, okay, we're not going to play this game either, that's a strong statement. That for me, being a black man in America and being a NBA alumni, that was the proudest moment that I've seen outside of the things I've done in the sport. And to see those guys step up as a group, as a whole, and say, hey, enough is enough. And I'm just proud. I'm very proud. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. It's been a tough year. It's been really tough witnessing, all the things that we've had to endure. And there was a time in sports where black people weren't even allowed in sports. In baseball, we know Jackie Robinson broke that barrier. Earl Lord broke it, and Nat Cooper broke it in the NBA, and so on and so forth. So for a long time, if you were black and you were an athlete, you couldn't say anything, or you would be blackballed like Muhammad Ali was, or like Floyd was, who in baseball became a free agent and said, I can play where I want to play. And so there's been examples of systemic racism. And now that our current players, because when you're only making $300,000 a year back in the 80s, or you had a choice: lose my family, lose my job. There's a lot of pressure. But now these guys have a bigger platform. And that platform is due to guys like Jim Brown and Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali, and so on and so forth, Jackie Robinson, who lay down and risk everything so that these current day players now, particularly now, who not worrying about a salary, and a lot of them come from those neighborhoods. LeBron James was born in Akron, Ohio, homeless mother. It's not the first time he's seen this. It's not the first time these players have seen it. They've lived it. So that's power, to be able to pull your rank. It reminds me, I don't remember this, but I read about the protest of people not taking the bus in Alabama and how that hurt the city financially so much that they were going around trying to make black people ride the bus. It was difficult. So I understand it and I get it, because the bigger the travesty, the bigger the protest, and this one is peaceful. It's verbal. We hear from our players and how they feel, and I commend them for what they did today.
Powerful, both of you, and it is appreciated. And here's how it went down. The NBA and its players are demanding change in the aftermath of Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Players from the Bucks started the boycotts, leaving the court and staying in their locker room. They did not play their scheduled game at 1 p.m. Pacific. Thunder, Raptors, Lakers, Blazers followed suit in the boycott. The Bucks as a team gathered and read a statement on their decision.
The past 4 months have shit.
The league office sent out this statement. The NBA and the Governor Jeannie Buss. I was excited to see us play and hopefully close out the series tonight, but I stand behind our players today and always. After more than 400 years of cruelty, racism, and injustice, we all need to work together to say enough is enough. Justice for Jacob Blake. We hear you. James, you've known Jeannie a long time. This is a strong statement for unity between ownership and players.
Yeah, and, you know, it stems from her father, Dr. Buss, who was very, very conscious of what was going on in the world. And Jeannie has demonstrated that she is, you know, she's conscious of what's going on in the NBA. And not only that, in the community in L.A. She's spoken out way before this even happened. She's been on the front of speaking out on behalf of the Lakers and how they support the communities here in Los Angeles and throughout the NBA family.
Rob, the league and Adam Silver, owners, players, they've all been on the same page during a lot of turmoil in 2020. How important is it now, as the players came up with this boycott, to remain unified and together?
It's extremely important because you're gonna have those players who not making the dollars of a LeBron, you know, or Kawhi Leonard. You're gonna have these guys that's gonna want to get them play because they're, you know, at the end of the day, you want to take care of your family, but you don't want to be selfish in that. But you say, okay, if I don't play, I don't make the money to take care of my family. But I think in this day and age, these guys are gonna stand pat and they're gonna say, hey, I understand it's bigger than us, and it's bigger than, you know, the game of basketball as itself. It's just something that. And I might, as a player, I might not have kids now, but for my kids to step into this world and not have to worry about going down the street and get, you know, pulled over while being black. You know, and it's one of those statements that we always say in our community, and people don't understand it, but they're starting to understand it, that, you know, you always get nervous when you see that cop in your rear view, and you like, okay. And I remember plenty of times when I get pulled over by a cop at night, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, please be black, please be black, please be black. And it's crazy that you have to think that. And I know I jumped off the topic, but I'm just happy that these guys are going to stand pat because, like I said, it's bigger than what's happening now. It's like they're planning for their kids' future or their kids' future. You know, I hope before I leave this earth that there'll be a big change, but and we just got to wait and see, and I hope this is a stepping stone. And we said that with the George Floyd murder, but, you know, hopefully this is another step towards it being some equality.
The leader of the Lakers on the court has been LeBron James, and here he is tweeting about his frustration. He's using it.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how to use your platform, and nobody's doing it better than LeBron. He's extremely conscious with his Get Out to Vote campaign that he has. We know what he's done in the inner city with schools and things of that nature, but, you know, LeBron understands. I think he gets it because he's a historian. He's seen what's come before him. And, you know, how many times does a contract have to be broken before there's some justice or there's some equality? You know, I'm a little older. You know, I read up on the Emmett Till. You know, the story of Emmett Till. I remember Rodney King. I've read up on Tulsa in the 1920s during segregation when they made black people move away. And these black people just happened to be extremely successful. And they had a town and they burned it down and the Klan came in with the sheriff. So this history has broken so many contracts that we just don't know what to do now. Every time we sign on to something, we're going to do it better this time. We're going to reform the police. We're going to make new laws, and we're going to do this, and we're going to stop pulling people over and harassing them and driving while black. All those contracts get broken. Seems like every year or every day, and so it's frustrating, and we just don't know what to do anymore. And so that's why you see people using their platform and. I'm not even like, I don't even want anything. I just want equality. You know, I'm angry and it's hard to even cry anymore because I'm just numb from seeing somebody get shot in the back 7 times. And I see other videos that don't quite, you know, have the same outcome. So it's just hard to take. I'm 60 almost, and it's, you know, I've seen a little bit more than these guys have. And the contracts they're not binding. I love what Doc Rivers said yesterday.
You know, for me, And yesterday, you know, I was sitting there and I started crying. And my wife walks in, she's like, "Are you crying because you turned 50 today?" And I started laughing, like, no. I said, "Did you see the video of this guy getting shot?" And first, I saw it, I'm looking at it, I thought, well, maybe they're gonna tase him, right? Because that's what they do with white people, they tase them. And so I didn't have the volume up, and then Christian walks in the room, he says, "No, Dad, they shot him." So I play it again, I'm like, wow. They shoot this guy 7 times in the back. And then I have this conversation with Christian, and he's like, that's wrong, that's wrong. I said, yo, it is beyond wrong. It's just flat out evil. And I'm telling him, and it's hard to tell your 14-year-old son that I worry about him when he walks out that door. I have a 21-year-old son. I worry about him because black men are endangered species, pretty much. These cops are just killing because they feel like if they don't have their body cams on, they have a right. And I tell my kids all the time, I said, dude, I don't care what's going on because at the end of the day, I want you coming home to me. If you have to lay down on the ground and they can kick you, beat you, at least you're gonna go to the hospital and you're gonna come home to me. Don't, whatever they say to you, don't take it upon yourself to let that rage you have against that cop come out because he has the gun. He can end you. And I don't want him to end you because if he ends you, that means I'm going to end him. And I know that's wrong for me to say, but I'm so much a time to kill type of guy like Samuel Jackson, you know, and this is going to happen with me. And I said, I don't want that to happen. I already lost one child. I don't need to lose another. And I don't think people understand, especially white people, how hard it is for black people to watch that. I know a lot of white people say, that didn't really happen. He provoked this. It doesn't matter what happened. To shoot a guy in the back 7 times, to shoot that guy in the McDonald's parking lot, to do all these things to a black person. When you see the videos of a white person with a gun, with a knife, and you running from this white person, or you tasing this person, that's the problem. And they don't quite understand. I look at all these people when something happened with animals and pets or an endangered species, they back them. So I want every person that is not black, like white people, to start standing up. No, don't just say Black Lives Matter and think that's the end of it. You know, start a fundraiser. Do something more than just using your voice. Use your platform also. It's not just about the black community using their platform. It needs to be the white people also, because black people made these actors and whoever politicians got money, they made them rich too by providing them with, you know, going to watch their movies. So this is not just going to, this is a problem that's in the world, and it has to be solved by the world, not just the black people. And it has to be the community. It has to be us to come together and say we have to have some equality in this world and start treating everybody like we want to be treated.
Appreciate your words, Rob. Really do.
Welcome back. I'm Allie Clifton as we take a look at some social media as we get some player reaction to the latest regarding boycotting of today's game. LeBron James, of course, this man, we demand change. Sick of it. Kyle Kuzma, sacrifice comes before change. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Donovan Mitchell, we demand change. Salute to the Milwaukee Bucks. Karl Anthony Towns, shoot hoops, not people. Jamal Murray of the Nuggets, we demand justice. DeMar DeRozan, this is bigger than basketball. Whoever don't understand that is part of the problem. Kevin Love, we have the strongest, most unified league in the world. Hashtag change. John Wall, just in case you forgot. Hashtag bigger than basketball. We will no longer shut up and dribble. Trae Young, proud to be a part of this league even more today. We want change with a couple of black hearts. It continues on. The Clippers played on Tuesday, and after the game, Doc Rivers was asked his thoughts on the Kenosha shooting involving Jacob Blake.
What stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention and they're spewing this fear right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung, we've been shot, and we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you.
Powerful stuff from Doc Rivers. What was your reaction, James, when you saw that last night?
Well, when I listened to Doc yesterday, Doc is an example of someone from my era, pretty much, who has held it in. You know, we've been able to say things here and there. We've been able to support different politicians and do our things that we do. But what I just heard is a built-up frustration. You know, his father was a cop in Chicago, so he knows good cops. And I think, you know, no one wants to defund the police department. That's a hoax. You know, reforming is a different thing. And when I grew up, you know, there were cops that lived in my neighborhood that policed our neighborhood. And I think until we can get, you know, equal justice and get proper training, I think we might have to get back to that, because it's hard for someone 25 miles who lives in a predominantly white neighborhood to come to Compton and understand that. 98% of things can be diffused with a conversation. It's just about how you handle it. But when there's been so much fear, and Doc is right, man, it's, you know, getting pulled over is a big thing. Even if you do what they ask you to do. Where's your registration? In the glove compartment. If you reach for it, you might get shot. And, you know, that kid, that was his 8th birthday. They were going to get some toys for his son's birthday. What do you think is going to happen on his birthday for probably the rest of his life? He's traumatized, because that's what he's going to think about. His dad was walking, buying him toys, 7 times in the back, paralyzed, every time his birthday comes up. So it trickles out into the community, these things. And so, and obviously you can hear everyone. Rob, you read Rob's stories, Doc's stories, LeBron's story. You've heard, you know, Steve Kerr. We've heard Coach Popovich. We've heard everyone. So I think people are just sick and tired of it. There's nothing else we can do. We can't pray no more. You know, I don't tell people not to pray, but we need to. Something has to happen. This is a mess right now, and so yeah, 7 times in the back. That's people go to bed with that, you know, in their mind. It's hard. It's hard to deal with.
And Rob, you shared with us earlier what your emotions were yesterday when you saw that video. I'm curious, when you saw Doc, and this is after the Clippers played their best game in the bubble and went up 3-2 in a series, and even said, I'm just supposed to be a coach, but this is the focus.
Yeah, he's totally right. It's because he's a coach, he's a successful coach, and he's a black coach. So he's going to get bombarded by all types of questions. And sometimes I look at the media, and they're asking all these athletes and coaches these questions. But how often do you ask, you know, the CEO of this company, you know, the CEO of that company, this lobbyist that we have going to Washington, how often do you ask those people these questions to get them to say something? And a lot of times, you know, they just throw their hands and say, you know, I'm not going to answer it. You got to make these people answer these questions to see where their head at. And if your head is not in the right place, like we're doing, vote and get that person out there and get someone else in there. And for me to sit there and watch Doc, you know, I smile. I said, because I agree with James on this when it says, you know, defund the police department. I'm like, well, that is to me, James, I'm the same. That's just doesn't make sense.
The wording's not correct.
Yeah.
It should be
I'm like,
reformed,
no,
James.
I mean, we have relatives that are cops.
Yeah.
I mean, brothers and aunts and uncles that are, I mean, black people have a lot of cop friends.
Yeah, we need police officers. We just need the right police officer, and that's what we have to understand. We can't, make every cop guilty by association. Think about it. Doc's cop. You can't say Doc's father was a bad cop. He was a cop. And when Doc spoke and he started crying, I was like, it just made me think of all my friends because I got Asian friends that are cops, I got black friends that are cops, I got white friends that are cops, and I got Mexican friends that are cops. I got all these friends that are cops, and I always, they sit down, they tell me the story, and they always tell me, yo, I don't want to pull my gun. I try not to put my gun. I let a guy get away because I don't want to go home and sleep with the burden that I had to kill somebody. I'm like, dude, I tell them all the time, I couldn't be a cop. What you guys have to go through and the pressure you have to go through is amazing. So, I know Doc had a lot of nights where he didn't know if his dad was coming home, but at the end of the day, Doc is so right. Sometimes you just want to, keep it simple and be a coach.
Just a coach. All right, thanks, Rob. Empty arenas in the Orlando bubble as NBA players and teams boycott all 3 of Wednesday's playoff games. We'll be right back.
Harass or shoot. The cops is probably upset that he's still alive because I know they surely tried to kill him. To almost take a man's life, especially in front of his kids that wasn't resisting in his back at point blank range is a heartless and gutless situation, and we need some justice for that.
It's unfortunate we're in this bubble and we're still dealing with these issues. You're still seeing unarmed black men get shot in the streets. It's ridiculous at this point. It's difficult being here when things like that is happening. We kind of feel helpless in a way. And outside of our jerseys, we're black men. It's really a scary encounter to run into police officers right now.
This is bigger than just the game. I'm not taking anything from the game, but man, this is life. The common excuse is, oh, you shouldn't have, walked away. You shouldn't have not listened to the cops. That doesn't deserve you to be shot in the back. That's just inexcusable. And I think that's really what we should focus on. We need to focus on, because the point of us coming down here was to create change. It's disgusting. And I really don't know how else to describe it. As an African-American male, and I have my sister and my mom and my dad and, my friends and family, when does it stop? When do we feel safe? I just want this to stop.
It's starting to feel like everything we're doing is just going through the motions and nothing's really changing. We're the oppressed ones, and the responsibility falls on us to make a change to stop being oppressed. What are we willing to give up? Do we actually give a about what's going on? Or is it just cool to wear, Black Lives Matter on the backdrop or wear a t-shirt? Like, what does that really mean? We knew, coming here or not coming here wasn't going to stop anything, but ultimately, playing or not playing puts pressure on somebody. I'm just over the media aspect of it. Sensationalized just feels like a big pacifier at this point. There's no reason for it other than, hatred and systematic, racism that is ingrained in our culture, in our society, and our people. You become helpless a little bit, and it's scary. It's scary. Scary is the word I would use.
There is an emphasis in this country on the framing of these instances such as Jacob Blake. This framework is not unfamiliar to people of color and African Americans, nor does it constitute death or being shot. Are we not human beings? Is Jacob Blake not a human being? His kids will never unsee that. His family will never unsee that. And frankly, I will never unsee it. People post my jersey all the time, number 7. And every time I look at my jersey now, what I see is a black man being shot 7 times.
WNBA players are also showing their support for the movement by the NBA, kneeling and wearing shirts that spell out Jacob Blake. Powerful. Nneka Ogwumike of the Sparks, also the president of the Players Association, spoke after the Sparks game was postponed.
There was a lot of, kind of oscillation back and forth, and eventually most teams or players agreed that not playing today was the option. And I ride for my players. And so right now we're not just trying to make a statement today. We're trying to also figure out what actionable items can come out of this, because we stand in solidarity with our brethren, And right now, there's just so much more that we have on our minds. But with our platform, there's so much more that we feel that we can do to really create some serious change.
Some news from Adrian Wojnarowski. The NBA has scheduled a special Board of Governors meeting on Thursday. We bring in Laker insider Mike Bresnahan. Brez, the WNBA, Major League Baseball, we're seeing it across the board now, nothing like it before. Let's talk big picture. How long until we see players back on the court, or is the season in jeopardy?
Yeah, Geet, it is such a tough call to make right now. Obviously, some very important meetings going on. Not just the NBA Board of Governors that you just outlined with that Woj tweet, but the players themselves. You know, about 225 players still in the bubble, 13 teams still live in the playoffs. They were all invited to meet tonight in Orlando, and we will not know what the outcome of that meeting is until later tonight. If not tomorrow, maybe they'll be working in conjunction with the league and the union to kind of publicize whatever it is they come up with. And you know, there's a couple different outcomes that can happen after this meeting. Maybe there's another day of protests and boycotts tomorrow. There's 6 more teams scheduled to play. None of those teams were scheduled to play tonight. So maybe they say, hey, you know what? We would also like to not take the court and kind of voice our support for the 6 teams that also did not play on Wednesday night. And of course, beyond that, there's always the situation where maybe the league and the players say, you know what, basketball is secondary right now. This season is on hold, if not ended, until further notice.
Brez, what have the Lakers done as an organization over the last couple of months to address social justice?
Yeah, you know, I'm still kind of moved, might be the wrong word, but still kind of inspired by a quote from Tim Harris, the Lakers president of business operations, a couple of months ago. He said, hey, for decades and decades, the Lakers have always been a non-racist outfit, obviously, but now they want to be anti-racist. And Tim did a very important thing. In June, he hired Karita Brown, a professor at UCLA, and she is now devoting herself to doing weekly workshops with Lakers staff and trying to keep them up to date on the important situations and the important current events and how they can affect change. So indeed, they are doing weekly workshops. As a matter of fact, the one today happened right while the Bucks were doing their boycott, kind of a collision of worlds right there for sure.
All right, Brej, we appreciate your time. Good work.
Anytime.
We'll be talking to you soon. Coming up, we'll have more reaction.
Saying we stand with our players. Hashtag justice for Jacob Blake. Adrian Wojnarowski with this latest development. Within the Bucks, there's sentiment that the team wants to continue playing here. Sources tell ESPN. The team's statement about it, imperative for the Wisconsin state legislature to reconvene after months of inaction, was an important element of action that players want to influence. Dwayne Wade, proud of our players. JB Bickerstaff, head coach of the Cavs. If you can watch, cheer, celebrate, and share it in their pain on the court, you should share in their pain off the court and show empathy for them if you value them as human beings. Acknowledge that they are hurting. Ask why. They are more than entertainment. NBA referees. The NBRA stands in solidarity with our players' decision to boycott tonight's games in protest of the continued unjustified killing of black men and women by law enforcement. There are more important issues in our country than basketball, and we hope this will inspire change. NBA Coaches Association says they support our players 100%. The restart happened largely because of the platform it provided. The baseless shootings of Jacob Blake and other black men and women by law enforcement underscores the need for action. Not after the playoffs, not in the future, but now. Stan Van Gundy. I am proud of NBA players. They are trying to use their platform to make a difference on issues of racial injustice. For those criticizing them, both the shut up and dribble crowd and the ones thinking they should do more, 2 questions. What is your solution? What are you doing? Tim Reynolds. August 26, 2016, Colin Kaepernick sits for the anthem. August 26, 2020, NBA players boycott. And the Bill Russell. I'm moved by all the NBA players for standing up for what is right. To my man, the Jet on TNT, Kenny Smith, I would like to say thank you for what you did to show your support for the players. I am so proud of you. Keep getting in good trouble. Powerful.
Really
powerful stuff, guys.
Ali. Thank you so much. All the players and former players standing together. Anthony Davis' statement on Monday. We want justice for Jacob Blake. It's unacceptable. We're continuing to talk and try to find justice for him and everyone else who's been a victim. And Rob, it's interesting what Coach Van Gundy said right there. To those people that say you're only hurting yourself by not playing, or what change can come when the people who need to hear it falls on deaf ears. What do you tell those people?
You know, you tell them, like, you know, it starts out, the deaf ear is because you're whispering. This is not a whisper. Now I'm yelling at you, and now you're going to hear me. And I think with the players walking out, it's a loud statement, because now it's going to start like, did you hear the guys boycotted? Did you hear this? It's that little fire that's starting to spread. And with these guys not playing, they're going to start being heard even more. I know some people around the world is like saying, well, they can still play, and their voice is going to be heard by playing. But no, this is a louder statement because this is hitting some people in their pockets. And when you get hit in your pocket, your ears start to perk up, and that voice is not a whisper anymore. It's a yell. And hopefully it'll open some eyes and want people to have some change, because think about that. It's these sports in America, there's so many black athletes in these sports. And let's just say one of these main teams has a black athlete and they have a brother. You know, my brother went through a lot of troubles. Now, he goes out and something like this happens to him. Now I'm leaving my team. And let's say if I'm Shaquille O'Neal and I'm leaving his team and we got a playoff game for the championship. I don't play, you ain't gonna win. You just lose some money. So you have to look at it in that perspective, that when you not just taking care of yourself, but you're taking care of their families and their families, and it's a snowball effect. So it just won't be, you know, oh, I'm taking care of this person. But no, you're taking care of a lot of people by, you know, having your voice and trying to make a change.
James, it's infuriating when you hear some say, these guys make millions. They live in big houses. What are they really sacrificing? But they don't know where these young men and women are from. And when it's not about the money and how much they love to compete, and walking away from a playoff game or actually standing up for what's right is not easy. That actually takes courage.
Yeah. My grandmother, bless her heart, she used to always say, it's very hard to reason with ignorance. And I took that a long way, and that kept me from getting in fights, as long as nobody put their hands on me, but it kept me moving on. But I don't think it's so much as ignorance as it is, you know, the inability to understand the past. They didn't teach it.
Yeah.
If they did, I could see in the 7th grade sitting down with my white friend and talking about history. We learned about George Washington. We learned about, you know, Thomas Jefferson, but we didn't learn about, you know, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We didn't learn. No. So I think that's the problem. People don't know, and they don't understand it. So as an NBA player, you know, as a black person, whether you're a doctor or whether you're a trash man or whatever you are, you use the tools that you have. Somewhere there's a school teacher in 2nd grade. She's using her tools, whatever she has, to get people to vote. We have a bigger platform. We're using our tools. It ain't about no money. It's not about money. People go out there in the street protesting. They've lost their jobs. They don't have money. It's not about wealth and money. It's about character and understanding what you have to do to bring something all whole together.
We'll be right back. Lakers and Blazers Game 5 is one of 3 playoff games boycotted today.